right, great, good. We're back, we're in good business. So managing our energy and not our time. Let me start just by hearing from those who are able to speak. What do you think today's conversation will be about? Managing energy, not your time. If somebody had to ask you, are you managing your energy or are you managing your time? What would the response to that be? Anyone wants to give it a go? Okay, so we have some activity in the chat. Diana says prioritization. Thank you. Someone else wants to give it a go? Managing energy, not managing time. And anyone who has audio, actually, can just turn on their mics and tell us what they think this is about.
Hi.
Hi.
I think it's about understanding yourself. When are your energy levels up? Some people are morning people, others are lunchtime people, others are evening people. That's what I think. And then making the most out of that opportunity.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You sound very much like a morning person. I can hear the oomph in the voice. Anyone else wants to give it a go? What do you think we will hear and talk about when we see this topic, managing energy, not time? Right?
I think it's about taking care of oneself.
Taking care of oneself.
Yes.
Right? Great. Thank you. Ruth, do you want to tell us a bit more about that? In which context?
In terms of health, one's mental health, you're taking care of yourself, that energy. We don't want you to go into a slump, just because you're so focused on maybe tasks ahead of you. You also need to take care of yourself to be at a good place.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that. Good, thank you. Beatrice is adding, she thinks it's about investing in your well-being and taking time to refresh. Ruth says it's about creating healthy boundaries. Florence says it's about maximizing the time you have allocated for each role in your life. Brilliant. Thank you, team. Thank you, ladies. This is really a good start. Yes, so the conversations will go in directions that will touch some of what it is that we have mentioned and so much more. So to get us started, we had Hazel and Catherine give us a bit of an intro to who KWIIN is, and I have to say I really like that acronym. It already tells us quite something about the organization. So we are the Amani Institute, and like Hazel said, not to be confused with the counseling services. The Amani Institute is a global social enterprise located in the global hubs of social innovation, that is in Nairobi, Kenya, in India, and in Brazil. And what is it that we do? We have a mission to develop people and organizations to lead social impact. We are of the opinion that in order for us to move in a positive direction as a planet, we want people to think about how the work that they do has an impact on the people that they serve. Right? So when we talk about social impact, we talk about being led by that our organizations are in existence to serve humanity in a positive manner. And we are a capacity building entity. Our role, the mission or our reason for being is to develop individuals and organizations to lead social impact. And when we use the word lead here, we don't necessarily mean position. Everybody is a leader in their own right. Everybody has the capacity, or we believe everyone has the capacity to lead change and social change. And therefore, we design interventions at the individual level, where we talk about developing change makers. We have in-house programs that are customized and directed specifically at individuals to help them build skills, frameworks, explore mindsets in order for them to be able to lead change. We do that as well for organizations, where we have, again, interventions to help build the capacity for organizations to do what it is that they do in a more efficient and a more effective manner. And then finally, we talk about serving the purpose economy or the impact economy, where we convene and participate in conversations that help people see a different way, a different perspective, particularly around creating social change. That's who we are. And I've spent a few seconds there just because I wanted us to understand the distinction between us and the counseling services who sit squarely in the business of mental health. So that's their focus area. We are not related at all. We just happen to have a name in common that was completely coincidental. So we are a leadership organization. We train people on building their skills and capacities to lead social impact. And just to give you a bit of a context, like I said, we are a global organization. So just to give you a sense of our portfolio, just a sampling of our more than 150 clients, you will see that the range is all the way from kind of the INGOs, the UN World, all the way to educational institutions, corporate entities, some of whom I'm sure are represented by the members here. And this is just to give you a sense that we have the capacity to, or our engagement or interaction or our belief is that social change can happen within any organization as long as there is an internal drive and interest towards that. And we come in and support the building of the capacities for that across this spectrum of organizations. In terms of the skill set, we like to talk about 21st century skills. These are the skills that through a compilation from many employers, people are saying to, as have said to us, or our research is telling us that the gaps or the places where if we can optimize our abilities around leadership, around management, around communication, and around innovation, we're likely to see changes in the way people interact within the workplace, in the way people lead themselves, and in the way people lead organizations. So this is just a sampling of some of the topics in which we have trained, but important for us is in terms of the takeaway would be skills in leadership, in management, in communication, and in innovation. So a bit about the team that will be guiding you today. Myself, Pauline Dongaveko from the Amani Institute. I'm the Senior Program Manager with over 20 years experience locally and internationally in the private and social sector. On a day-to-day basis, I spend my time doing program design and training and facilitation, as well as coaching. In terms of managing my energy, some of the strategies that I deploy, I'm a fan of cooking. I use it as a de-stressor and as an energizer. Also a fan of long drives, change of scenery really helps me energize. as well as taking notes. I want to introduce or request my colleague Musa to unmute himself and just introduce himself. Musa?
Hello, good morning. My name is Wangalwa Musa. I am program manager at Amani Institute. And I'm happy that you've joined us this morning. For the last 8 years or so, I have been designing and leading the implementation of skills and enterprise development programs. And well, as far as energy is concerned, I like seeing the smile on people's faces after supporting them to making a positive impact in their lives. So you will find me contributing to causes that make the world, or at least a little corner of it, a better place. And also I enjoy discussions, and I'm happy that we shall be having one today, and just valuing diverse opinions, because it also enhances and increases to my knowledge. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Musa. Agnes, if you're still here with us, please greet our hosts.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Pauline. My name is Agnes Gadenji, and I work at Amani Institute as the Communications and Partnerships Lead, supporting the programs team. I am so happy to be here with you today, and I'm a big fan of personal growth and personal development. So looking forward to a wonderful session, and I hope that you find maximum value and see ways of directly applying what Pauline and Musa take us through today.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, team. So that's a team that will be supporting you. So throughout the session, feel free, if you have questions, you can either put up your hand or put them in the chat, so that we can move together. So we have been talking about energy management for the 11 plus years that Amani has been around. We celebrated our 10th anniversary in November of last year, and we are constantly affirmed in the work that we do. We are here to support your success, and today we will do that by having conversations around energy management. And we are inspired by the works of Catherine McCarthy and Tony Schwartz, a team of a pair that then worked on something they call the Energy Project. So we will be inspired by the work that they did on that in order to gain perspective. So what can we expect this morning? 3 overall objectives. You can expect to learn about energy management. What is it? What do we mean by it? Have some reflections around your energy management, and then build your own energy management rituals. So I like that the way the time has been designed, it's an optimum hour for learning. And at the Amani Institute, we're also very big on practice. What we mean by this is we have a mantra that for us, learning only adds value if it is applied. And so we'll have an application piece towards the end, so that to help us tie together the kind of a theory piece that we will start. So what will you need in order to gain maximum value? If you're able to, as soon as you're in a place where you can be seated, somewhere quiet, so that you can be fully present, or somewhere where you can have some level of focus, have a pen and paper with you, because we will do some little activities. And as always, an open and willing heart as far as learning is concerned. So I just thought to put that out there quite early, so that you have that view. Why is a conversation around energy management important? It is important because in order for you to be an effective leader, leadership begins with yourself. Leadership begins with yourself, as most things. At Amani, we talk about, or at kind of at the heart of our methodology, and you will have seen it for those who are here when I introduced the organization. We talk about, you see, whether we structure it in terms of the individual, the organization, and the ecosystem. So this particular conversation is important because it's an opportunity for you to have a conversation with yourself around how you work, how you show up at work, and also how you show up in your life. In order for us to be effective leaders within our organizations, we need to be able to effectively lead ourselves. Once we are able to lead ourselves, then we can lead organizations, and then sequentially we can lead others and effectively lead organizations. So the ability to lead self helps us grow into, and the ability gives us a capacity to lead others and then lead organizations. So a very personal conversation. What that should tell you is that we will have moments of reflection where you truly think about what this means for you. And that's where the value of having a pen and paper, or at least an ability to capture some of the content as we go. So I think in the intros, as we were having conversations, some people were speculating what this session will be about. And we start by positing that life is constantly asking a lot of us. It's constantly asking a lot of us. The demand for our knowledge, our time, our abilities continues to rise, and often capacity tends to diminish. So as you will see with this graph that we have put on the screen, constantly a lot is asked of us on a daily basis. I mean, it is only 8 or 3 in the morning, and I'm sure some of you have already, kind of been submitted, even physically, a list of demands, even as you left home. Probably your domestic manager already gave you a list of things that are missing or that you need to buy on your way home. Perhaps you have some children or people you live with in the house. As you were leaving, people already demanded something of you, whether it is your time, whether it is to sit with them briefly so that their day can start well. That was already before 8 a.m. And you've now walked into the office, and I'm sure for some of you already from the door, there is a list of demands, right? And yet, eventually, the capacity starts to diminish. So this is our first reflection question. What are some of the strategies that you are using in order to keep up with this demand? What are some of the strategies that you're using in order to keep up with this demand? And I'd really like to hear from you. And probably we can put this in the chat, or if you have audio, unmute yourself. What are some of the strategies that you're using in order to keep up with life's constant and increasing demands? Anybody wants to share with us? What are some of the strategies that you're using to keep up with this demand on time, right? Beatrice says she's saying no with confidence. Those are some of the strategies she's deploying. Thank you, Beatrice. Hazel takes breaks and does some journaling. Great, thank you. Yvonne has a to-do list in order to help her prioritize. Great, thank you, Yvonne. Other people, strategies that you're deploying? Let's see if we can hear a few more, 2 or 3. I really like the saying no with chest. That's a very nice. Sharon, planning. For her, planning is very essential. Yeah. Emma is also in the to-do lists. Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Great. So thank you. Thank you for those who have shared. Thank you for those who have shared. And I want to add for us, time is finite, right? So in the previous one, we talked about continued increasing demand, and yet the capacity starts to diminish. When we talk about demand, we talk about a demand on our time. And yet time is finite, time is fixed. We all have the exact same hours in a day. 24 hours, 60 minutes, and however many seconds we want to compute. A year is a year regardless of where you come from. Even if you're operating in Ethiopia where they have a calendar that's different, it is still, we have the same amount of time. Or even if you're part of that audience, you're the same. So time is fixed. So that means we cannot change time. We need it in order to be able to be effective, but we cannot change it because it is a fixed resource. Energy, on the other hand, can be expanded and regularly renewed. So time is fixed, but energy can be expanded and regularly renewed. So essentially, time cannot be expanded, but we can expand our capacity. So to help us with the contrast, time, once we have depleted time, it's gone. The 10 minutes that you had earlier this morning to do something, once the 10 minutes are gone, that's it. It's the same for everyone. Energy, on the other hand, can be renewed and expanded through specific rituals. And we're going to share with you what those rituals could look like. Energy also varies across different people. So when we talk about energy, what do we mean? I want to take us back to our physics class for those of you who may have had an encounter with physics. In the world of physics, energy is defined as the capacity to work. The capacity to work. And in human beings, energy comes from 4 well springs or 4 sources. Source number 1, we get energy from the body, and therefore here we are talking specifically about the quantity or the amount of energy. Does anybody want to guess what the other 3 could be, now that I've given you a hint? Anyone wants to make a guess what are the other sources of energy? You could put this in the chat. Anyone wants to take a shot? So I've already given us the first one, the body. Benta makes a guess, environment. Anyone else wants to join Benta in the guessing game? Moses, the mind. Moses and Hazel are coming in exactly at the same time. Mind as another wellspring. Mwihaki, good food. Definitely a source of energy. Thank you, Mwihaki. Anyone else wants to make a guess? We have mind, environment, good food. See if we can squeeze in one more. Exercise, enough rest. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, China, Viola. Good. The guesses are all sitting somewhere roughly where I was looking for. The second wellspring of energy is the emotions, and emotions has to do with quality of energy. Quality of energy. Thank you, Amos. Thank you, Evelyn. Attitude, food we take. Okay, good. So the second wellspring is around the quality of energy. This comes from our emotions. The third wellspring is the mind. The mind. How we focus the energy or the focus of energy. And the final wellspring is spirit, the purpose of energy. body, emotions, mind, and spirit. Quantity of energy. So not just the amount, but then also the quality, the focus of the energy, and the purpose of the energy. So unlike, for example, cars, which require just one source of energy. So if it is a petrol-based car, petrol. If it is a solar-based car, the sun. If it is an electric car, the electric current. Human beings, energy comes from four wellsprings, and these four wellsprings must work in tandem. They must work together in order for us to have the capacity we require to work. So let's quickly walk through these wellsprings one by one. Body, quantity of energy, and I think some people had part of your guessing leads us here. Body, this is around physical things, right? Food, what we eat, our movement, our sleep. I think some of it had been said there, the food we eat, the rest, exercise. Here we want to focus on what and on knowing what depletes our energy or takes away our energy, and what nourishes us or what gives us more, what gives us physical energy. The question on the table for everyone, how could we increase our physical energy? Let's get some examples. How might you increase your physical energy? I think we had 2 or 3 people who had mentioned, if I could go back to the chat. Madeline talked about food. Amos talked about exercise. Viola talked about rest. Catherine coming in again with the exercise. Muhaki, good food. This is specifically around physical energy. So because some of you had already given us some examples, let me go straight into it. Let me offer some tips or some rituals to restore this wellspring, right? Remember, very important as we listen to this, we have said that these things must work in tandem. They must work together. The wellsprings must work together. So you cannot over-focus on one and leave out the others. So in terms of building the quantity of energy, some rituals or tips, designate specific times to sleep. So for example, you say every day, regardless of what's happening, I will endeavor to be asleep by 10 p.m. Eating without phones or not at our desks. A lot of us are guilty of doing this, I myself included. You imagine that the way to expand your day is to have your lunch or your breakfast or your snack as you are doing your email at your desk. Nutritionists will tell us to avoid doing this so that we designate that time. It has an impact on digestion, on our ability to enjoy that meal. We feel stressed out anyway because you're trying to do all these things at the same time. So why don't you set a time? Says my lunch break will be half an hour. So spend the half an hour away from your desk. Another way to do this, drinking enough water. And I know this is going to sound basic. The tips I'm offering might sound basic, but I'm sure if we had a moment to confess, we'll realize how many of us actually forget these things, or in the, as we are trying to fulfill all the demands of life, some of these things kind of get relegated to the back burner. Drinking enough water, ensuring that we are well hydrated, eating good food. Somebody, I think, had said good food. Where is it? Muhaki. Good food. What is good food about? It is eating the right quality and quantity of food. The right quality and quantity of food. In this age of social media, I think almost everyone is a dietitian. Almost everyone is doing one juicing activity or the other, a fast or the other. Know what is good for you and ensure that you're having the right nutrients for your body. If you have things such as caffeine or alcohol that have an impact on your ability to be present. Think about what is it that you need to do in order to manage that. The other one is regular exercise. And even as I say this, I'm smiling because I personally am terrible at this. But I am here to offer you hope this morning. I'm bringing to the table something that maybe some of you know called the 2-minute rule. And the 2-minute rule is basically a body of knowledge or a hypothesis that says, in order for us to pick up a new habit, spend no more than 2 minutes doing this new thing. So if you have decided, you've said to yourself that every morning, I'm sure you made this, some of you made a resolution, or we make it every other week, or every morning when we wake up and we try on something, we're like, I have promised myself that I'm going to start exercise. Do no more than 2 minutes of exercise. A stretch next to your bed just when you get out, one sit-up, one, kind of a push-up, one squat, just one walk around your building where you live, a brisk walk. The theory holds that in doing the 2 minutes, the likelihood is that you're going to do more than 2 minutes. There's a sense of achievement, and of course, your body will thank you for it. So for those of us like myself who are struggling with, it's like, yes, we do exercise. So you set your timer and you say, I'm going to take a 30-minute walk. What happens is by day 2 or day 3, you have sabotaged yourself. You found a reason not to do it. So perhaps the 2-minute rule here could be applicable. Then active relaxation. Somebody earlier had given us a comment about relaxation. Active relaxation, intentional, right? When we talk about active relaxation, it means intentional. Doing this activity with that specific intention to take a break, to rebuild, renew your physical energy. Maybe it is a walk. Maybe it is going outside and standing on the grass without your shoes so that you can center yourself. Maybe it is just taking a few seconds to listen to your favorite song, something that lifts you up and gives you inspiration. Maybe it is going over and having a conversation with someone about something other than work, changing the topic. These are some of the rituals or tips that we can use to restore the wellspring around the quantity of energy. So that's around the body. The second wellspring of energy, and as I said earlier, if anyone has a comment, a clarification, or a question, please put it in the chat. The second one, we talk about the quality of energy, and this has to do with emotions. Emotions. For those of you who are able to see the screen, I have shared with us something called the Wheel of Emotions, which is a tool that we really we enjoy using at Amani. And this wheel was developed or is used by mental health practitioners, psychologists, to help us really narrow down on what we are actually feeling. It posits that there is a broad spectrum of feelings that we tend to usually classify using this first inner layer. So we often say maybe I'm feeling bad, I'm feeling surprised, I'm feeling happy, sad, disgusted, angry, fearful. And this particular wheel helps us explore the spread of emotions that sit within these feelings so that it helps us avoiding to oversimplify and to actually really narrow down on what is that specific thing I am feeling. And it will have feelings across the range. And why is it important to know how we are feeling or to have perspective around this? Because on a daily basis, emotions affect our ability to be effective. So when we take control of our emotions, we can improve the quality of our energy. We might be very physically attuned, you've even had your walk, you're feeling pumped, you come to the office, but you're really angry, or you are feeling very frustrated about something, or you're feeling very hopeful about something, or you're feeling very joyful about something. That has a direct effect on how you're going to navigate your day or a particular moment. So I want to invite us for a brief moment to think about a time when you had negative emotions and how that impacted your work. So think about a time when you had a negative emotion and how that impacted your work, and in which ways did it do that? And I'm going to invite us again, if there's anyone who is willing and able to share in the group, thinking of a time when you had negative emotions and how that impacted your way, in your ability to be effective. And we can have also at the same time, how do we restore this particular wellspring? How do we restore ourselves? How do we restore ourselves around emotions? Let's see, anyone wants to give it a shot? Anyone wants to give it a shot? Anyone wants to give it a go? Somebody has said part of the way they restore themselves, music. Thank you. Great. I know for a fact that the way my day starts has a direct bearing on how I am for the rest of the day. So if something annoys me very early in the day, it's going to have an impact, and I have to consciously remind myself, call myself, kind of have a small meeting with myself to kind of recenter. Anyone else? Thank you. Music. How else do we restore our emotional wellspring? Just by looking at this, and I know some of you are looking at my wheel of emotions and wondering, do not know that there were that many. Yes, they are. And I'm glad that you will have this with you so that you can, if you're trying to figure out what it is that you're feeling, then you have that. Moses takes walks. Thank you. Diana does meditation. Thank you. Maureen, sometimes good food, does the magic. Imagine if you're having a really terrible day, or you're feeling really frustrated, and someone just shows up with a nice cup of tea that you didn't even ask them to make, or a warm cup of coffee. Thank you. Louisa, a nap. A nap helps her to recenter. Okay. Ruth, going for a swim. Thank you. Madeline tries to separate issues. Beautiful, Madeline. That's very beautifully said. Diana takes some quiet time, watches a documentary. Janet, a nice cry. Yep. Sometimes all you need to do is to have a good release. Thank you. Teresa says she looks for a sing-along. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Sharon, coloring or reading an article. Beautiful. Thank you, Sharon. Yep. I also have an adult coloring book. It does help to kind of distract and recenter. Florence goes for a restaurant breakfast date with herself. Good. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. That's very generous of you. Let's see what people at the Energy Project recommend. In addition to some of those things, here are some tips or rituals to restore the quality of energy. Okay, remember here we're talking about quality of energy, listening to inspirational messages. Thank you, Catherine. Now, the first one, and this one I really, really like. Have an appreciation ritual. What they mean by an appreciation ritual is take a moment to think about people you work with or people who you share a lot of time with, and just send them a message of appreciation. Take some time to think about what do I appreciate about the people in my life, and actually write them physical messages, send them a text just to say thank you. And as you do that, don't make it generic. Be specific about what it is that you're grateful for. That allows you to get out of yourself and create a good day for someone else, and that has a way of restoring the energy that we have. The other thing that's highly recommended is breathing. We cannot emphasize enough the power of breathing. Breathing intentionally. What that looks like is just taking a few seconds. And the beauty with this is you can do this anywhere. You can do it in traffic. You can do it even when you're driving, just to take a moment, slow your breath intentionally, take a few deep breaths, create a rhythm around it, just 10 seconds to do some deep breaths in and out. It allows you to recenter. It allows you to recenter yourself. Even in the middle of a heated conversation, maybe you're having a really heated debate with your colleagues or with the people you live with, just take a moment to breathe. The other very powerful one is something called the story I am telling myself. And there is somebody who said something that I thought was very connected here. Madeline talks about, we try to separate issues. Thinking about the story I tell myself, a lot of times when we're in a highly emotional state, we tend to go into victim mode. So the ask here is for us to reframe things, but seeing it from another perspective. Stay with the facts, but frame it in a way that moves you away from being a victim, move it into something hopeful and self-empowering. So for example, 3 lenses, a reverse lens. Try and see it from the other person's perspective. What would the other person say, and in what ways might that be true? I'm feeling this way about the situation. If I had to, let me put myself in the other person's shoes. How are they seeing this? What could they say? And in what ways might what they are saying be true? Another lens to look at it is what we call the long lens. In 11 months, in 6 months from now, will this matter? How will I see this? Will I have, if I then reflect on this moment, a couple of months from now, what will my view be? How will I see it? So then you make and that helps you to really take a beat, right? Take a moment and think things through. Then the wide lens, regardless of this outcome or of the outcome from this situation, what can I learn from it? What's a learning opportunity here? What's a growth opportunity? You know, if you look at the kind of the motto around these sessions, perhaps seeing it from a wider perspective. How can I grow and learn from it? So Musa, do you want to take us into the next dimension?
Sure. Perhaps you can, yes. I'd like to ask everyone, do you identify with this image? Can you relate to it? Just by a show of hands, you can raise your hand, or you can let me know what you think this image is portraying on the chat box. You know, Hazel is saying she can relate very much. Would you just type also on the chat box what's really, how do you relate with it? Oh yes, with Lisa. Okay. Anyone else who can relate to this image, don't you think it speaks to? And especially since 99.9% in this meeting are women, I am sure 99.9% do relate to this image. Typical of a busy day, a tired woman says, Sophia, that is nice. Sure. Multitasking mothers, okay. I got the word. I'm juggling too many responsibilities and need to balance. Yes, mambo ni mengi, masaa ni machache. Thank you, that is nice. Yeah, Pauline has already said that we have increased demands on our day-to-day lives. Yes, so mambo ni mengi na masaa ni machache. So then I want to ask, I've had, even Teresa, I'm reading saying typical multitasking women. How many of us pride ourselves as multitaskers? You, even in interviews, sometimes you say that I can handle so many responsibilities at the same time. How many of us say we are multitaskers? We pride ourselves that we can multitask. Yeah, by a show of hands, or even just with a simple me in the chat box. if you pride yourself, when people ask about your strongest skill sets, one of those that you come out and say is, I can multitask. Hazel is guilty. I am sure there's more, almost 100% of us. Yes, Moses Korea, by your show of hand. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Yes, Judy, also me, Jane. With most of us will say that, I like what Paula is saying, that she's a recovering multitasker. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but let me just tell you that multitasking reduces your productivity. And it has been proven that it slows you down. We have cases, and I'm sure most of us in here would reply. I know emails in our work environment is our mode of communication. So we have those who would reply to emails as soon as it pings. You know, you have WhatsApp notifications and would text back as soon as you get that notification. There's always that colleague of yours who's can I ask you something, or they wanna recap last night, especially if it's a Monday, and now you want to recap the weekend, you know? So there's these distractions and you're like, I can hear you, I'm just go ahead and say what you're telling me about, or go ahead and ask me that question as I continue to finish my assignment. So I had to be the bearer of bad news that distractions are costly, and a temporary shift from one task to the other increases your probability of finishing that main task by 25%. So that means if you needed to have a report done in 1 hour, 25% of 60 minutes will be an additional, say, 15 minutes. So technically, you're going to spend 75 minutes to complete that single report that you have done. So then, what does this do to you? Of course, one, it depletes your focus. You get that your focus is diminishing. Your energy depletes as well. And this may not be because you wanted to. It's something you don't even think about. You don't, sometimes you may not even realize it until the day is over and you had a very long to-do list and you are yet to finish part of the things that you are supposed to do. Hence, the difference between deep work and busy work. And what do I really mean when I say the difference between deep work and busy work? It is far more efficient for us in our daily demands, in our lives, in our respective sectors, in our day-to-day life. It is far more efficient to fully focus to a particular task for at least 90 to 120 minutes, and now take a well-deserved break, say for 25 minutes. Because what this does is you will be able, one, to fully focus on the task and finish it. You will be rejuvenated because you have completed that task and you'll have more energy to tackle the task. And you'll also have that break and time to fully focus on the next activity. And that is what we call the Ultradian sprints. So where you fully focus, you can decide, it can be in 45 to 120 minutes on that particular task that you have decided to do. Then take a 25 minutes break. And this is where now you refuel your wellspring of the mind, focus of energy. You could listen to music, you could take a walk, you could now perhaps chat with that friend of yours who has a very nice story. And after that 25 minutes now, go back and fully focus on the next activity. We have a series of meetings. Granted, we can even call this one. Our meetings usually very effective. Do we find ourselves repeating the agendas time and time again? Or alternatively, do we take longer than the scheduled time? How do we make our meetings effective? We have corporate executives who have adopted, as part of this energy project, some of the strategies to refuel and restore this wellspring. So what do? They leave their phones out of the meeting room and fully focus on the meeting 100%. So you do not have any distraction for you during the meeting. And this is one other way or a tip that you can restore during these meetings. It will make your meetings shorter. It will make your meetings more effective. And then, of course, that would mean more effectiveness as our leaders in our respective roles. Well, Another tip perhaps that has also been proven is a change of location. Distractions, especially in this era of technology, will follow us anywhere. It could be our phones, it could be our desk mate or the colleague who sits next to us. It could be the TV in our offices. And when you need to particularly restore this wellspring and focus on your mind, these 120 minutes that you have dedicated for yourself to focus on this particular task. You can change location. You move out of your desk and find somewhere where you won't have a phone, you won't have any distractions from perhaps your colleagues or technological distractions. You can mute all your notifications, even including email notifications, so that you're able to complete, to fully focus on this task. Then, like I said, most of us, email pings, you want to respond, you want to read, and you are in the middle of something. Either you're writing a report, you're designing a presentation, you are perhaps doing your sales or reports for the day or for the month. How about you have a designated email time? And I like this because just recently I was having a discussion with an executive coach, and she told me that I only respond to my emails after 24 hours because I only have one designated time during the day to respond to my emails. So if it is 8 a.m. in the morning, the next time I'm going to look at my mails are going to be 8 a.m. the next morning. So don't feel pressure that I haven't responded to you, or quote unquote, it is because I am trying to restore these wellsprings. So have a designated email time. It could be twice a day. And there is a partner at Ernst & Young who says he was one of those culprits who would respond to emails anytime he gets an email notification. Then he decided, as part of this energy project, to put 2 designated slots, one mid-morning and one late in the evening, to respond to the emails. However, told his colleagues that should it be very urgent, in case if it is an emergency, please feel free to call me and feel free to send me that email and I will respond instantly. Now, guess what happened? He barely received those emergency calls. Like there wasn't an emergency that came to his desk because he is not available on email. There was none. So what does this say? Most of us who say, call me in case of an emergency, you do realize people often tend to find solutions for themselves during these emergencies that we want to gravitate towards because we have let ourselves available for them. Now, subconsciously as well, we get to procrastinate or reduce the chances of us doing the most complicated tasks of our day. So I want you to think about it maybe for a second right now, and what would have been the most important, what task would have the most leverage on you today, that if you complete it, you'll say, I have aced today, as in today has been a great day. What is this task that you have been procrastinating? You say, I want to do it tomorrow. I want to do it, you keep procrastinating, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it in the evening, I'll do it when I find time. I'm sure you're thinking about something right now, the most challenging task. So there is a way in which now you can restore your wellspring of mind by starting with your most challenging task. So as the day comes to an end today, think about yourself and say, what will be the most challenging task for tomorrow, Thursday? Then set it as the first thing you want to do for your day. And that is what we call eat your frog. You do realize, and because how will it restore your energy? Trust me, when say your day starts at 7:30 a.m. and that task is going to take you 2 hours of your day, 2 hours later at 9:30, you will even feel like you have accomplished everything that you needed to do that particular day. And what does that do to you? It refuels this energy. You're able to go into the next task even more energized and wanting to tackle the day, because this challenging task that you felt, I can't really hack it, so let me just keep procrastinating, and it happens subconsciously. You find yourself pushing it to the next time, the next time, and the next time. Now, the next wellspring we have is the purpose of energy. And for here, I want you to think about, what do you value most? whether you want to share it with us in the chat box, whether you just want to write it on your notebook. But what do you value the most? But why am I asking this question? Because people tend to tap into the energy of human spirit in their everyday work and activities when they are consistently working on the things they value most, the things that give them a sense of energy and purpose. So think about yourself and just think about what do you value most and how much are your day-to-day activities and work style aligned to that. Now, unfortunately, with increasing demands of our day-to-day lives, we get very little time to clearly have an understanding of what really we value the most to us. So there is a way in which you can ask yourself a more intrinsic question is, who do you want to be remembered as? Now, for example, do you want, if your kid calls you and says there is a music festival that they are participating tomorrow, do you want to be the one who says, I'll be there and I'll be on the front row, you know, cheering your kid, and you can always see the smile on their faces when they spot their parents in the crowd? Or do you want to be the one who will show up late and sit in the back seat? Why? Because you want to, anytime your phone rings, you want to be in an area you can go and pick it up. How would you want to be remembered as the person who spent most of the time, say, with their family, or the one who was, you squeezed it in late into the day? Because sometimes there is a disconnect between what we see as important and how we show up for it. Probably most of us, if asked about what is important to us, we'll say family, we'll talk about our health, we'll talk about our social impact, but how much of our day-to-day time how much of our energy do we really allocate to these activities? How often do we spend time with our families? Perhaps last hour of the day, or we come back home, they already are asleep and something like that. Now, there is also a way to know how you value, what you value, and how to re-energize this purpose of spirit. It is said that when you ask somebody, what do you value most? The answers might be very predictable. So how do we do it? Then we try and ask you, what do you find so disgusting in some other person? So for example, if I find stinginess as disgusting in people, then it means I value generosity. If I find a rudeness as very disgusting in someone else, then I value kindness, I value consideration. So here are a few rituals or tips in which we can use to refuel this spirit. And I have spoken to some of it. First is you get to identify what you do best and what you enjoy most. Now, also, these things are not mutually inclusive. What you do best and what you enjoy most could be totally different things. And what you enjoy, you may not be good at it. And what you do, you may not really also enjoy it. So you need to also invest a lot of your time to find out exactly the difference between what you do best and what you enjoy. So you can now think about the last 2 months of your work activities. Where did you find yourself in your sweet spot? Where did you absorb yourself? Where did you have so much energy while executing that task? Where did you feel most fulfilled? What is this particular task? I'm sure you have your notebooks. You can just write it down. Think through it for the next 30 seconds. You know, what is this activity that you found yourself really absorbed, you enjoyed it? And I'll give an example. So say what you have written down in your notebook is you are creating the strategy for your organization. So then you need to ask yourself, if this is what you found yourself in your sweet spot, this is what took you to your sweet spot, is it because you are in a position of leadership? Or is it because you are working on a creative endeavor of coming up with a strategy? Or is it because you enjoyed the ideation phase of coming up with this strategy? So these things, and you can use, once you have the answers to this, you can then perhaps delegate or assign these things that you may not really enjoy to those who enjoy most, and vice versa. And you'll get that by doing this, you'll spend most of your time to the things that have a meaning and purpose to you, and you'll have the energy to do them. You'll build resilience to, even in the face of challenges, to keep doing it and doing it over and over again. The other thing is you allocate time and focus in the areas of your life that are most important to you. This is family, this is health, social, work, service. And like I said, should we have thrown a question and say, type in the chat box, what do you really deem very important into your life? These are some of the responses that we'll be having. My family, my health, social work, service to mankind. But then I would throw another question and ask, fine, you have 24 hours in a day. You've mentioned family as the most important. How much time of your day do you then spend with your family? And you'd realize that whatever is most important for us, it's not often that we give it so much time. Then you can identify your core values in your daily behaviors and how you can strengthen that. That is why I said you can ask the question, try and see what disgusts you in the other people so that you find exactly what you value in yourself. Like the example I gave about if I find rudeness disgusting in someone else, then I value consideration. Then how do I continue to fuel my spirit of consideration? I need to be more considerate to others, so I stop being late for meetings. I keep time when it starts at 8, ends at 9, because this automatically then refuels your energy and you're able to show up even better to your day-to-day activities. And with that said, I have to leave you with this important quote. So to sustain your performance, we must balance energy expenditure with intermittent energy renewal, because life as a sprinter and not a marathoner. Because as a sprinter, they have the finish line as the target. They are laser focused, there's the finish line, and it's a sprint. You get there, there's nothing else distraction. But however, as a marathon, you have someone else cheering you by the sideline. You have to run and go pick a water bottle. You have to, it's 40 kilometers, so you never know what else is going to distract you along the way. So to sustain performance, we must balance our energy expenditure with intermittent energy renewal, and we will even be more effective leaders in our society. Back to you, Pauline.
Great. Thank you very much, Musa, for giving us that perspective. We've talked about how we can renew the quality of energy, the quantity of energy, our purpose, and our we had body, we had mind, we had spirit, thinking about the well springs of energy. So as we start to draw to the end, some quick things for us to think about. What are the things that affect our energy? Influencers. Here are some things: the time of the day, the days of the week. Maybe I have more energy. I am generally a person who has more energy. 11 a.m. to about 6, 7, 8 p.m. Those are my optimum times of operation. For other people, it could be crack of dawn. They will do. They have the most energy in the hours between 5 a.m. and 10 a.m., 11 a.m. Knowing these things are important to us. When am I at my best? Days of the week, perhaps in some days of the week, you weak, others you generally have low energy. The amount of sleep and rest that we get, food and caffeine, all these are factors that affect our energy. There are a number of distractions and interruptions we might have around us. Our personality is also an influencer around our energy, physical and emotional state. And then thinking about what are some of the actions that require energy. So knowing our influencers, so in helping us figure out how to balance our energy, how to expand our capacity, thinking about knowing our influencers, knowing what are the things that we need to do that require energy, complex or challenging tasks, creative work, reflection, day-to-day, daily mundane tasks, personal commitments. Knowing these things are important. And then, of course, knowing how we rebuild, renew, how we energize ourselves. Perhaps it is rest and recovery. Perhaps it's enjoyable activities, creative endeavors. Maybe it could be some you have a very personalized way of recharging, and maybe it even includes some of the actions. So then it's in knowing that, to think about, how do these things affect me? What are my behaviors when I feel energized, when I feel distracted, or when I feel restless, when I feel tired or depleted, right? What happens to me? Do I check out? Do I need to lie down? Do I need, what? It's very important to know these things so that you can think about what are the behaviors I feel, and then knowing when does this happen, right? So our influencers, time of day, days of the week, after certain activities. And then in terms of, I promised you guys now a personal reflection piece, thinking about how you actually spend your time. I want to share with us a framework to help us map these things. We want to identify our actions and how we can recover from them. Think about for a brief second, and if you have a notebook at near you, I want you to think about, and I'll give us about 2 minutes to write this down. What are the typical actions that you have to perform in your typical workday? If you think about sun up to sundown, what are the typical things that you have to do? So put those in one column, and you can put the headings, actions. And then in the next column, for each of those actions, think about the amount of energy that you require to perform those activities. And you are the best judge of that. I would recommend a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is low energy, 5 is high energy. So maybe a typical action that I have, for example, is to do session design. That is something that requires high energy, right? So I have session design in column 1, in column 2, the amount of energy, 5, high. And then in the third column, I want you to write down or think about what times of the day do you have the most energy and least energy. For example, optimum energy hours, I have bursts. So for example, 10:30, 11 through to about 1 p.m., fully present, fully engaged. I have a slump between 1 and 3 something. And then somewhere at 4 p.m., quite naturally, it's like I get another energy boost and I can power through until quite easily till 7, 8 and do an amount of work that I probably in those last 3 hours of the day, sometimes I do an amount of work that amounts to 2 days, just because that's when I am suddenly quite powered or energized, have a slump, and then again in the late evenings I find that I can actually I'm feeling quite energized. And that content that you're writing down will bring us to this, which is the gift that we want to leave you with, an energy planning template. An energy planning template. So for those who can see the screen, like I said, in the first column, you have the activity or the action. A second column, you have the amount of energy required on a scale of 1 to 5. In the third column, the time of the day. So remember the influencers, right? The influencers, energy influencers, the time of the day. Think about when is it that activity, when is the best time of the day for you to do it? When is the best day in the week? And then potentially, what are some of the other factors that have an influence on you? So let me show you an example for myself, just for you to see. Busy work. Remember we talked about busy work and deep work. Busy work for me looks like scheduling of meetings and other stuff. Admin. We have the channel. We have a workplace channel, a LinkedIn channel, a Slack channel that we use as internal community building and communication methods. Texts, This requires very low energy, probably even 1. The best time of the day for me to do this is when I'm having the deep energy, right? I don't need to engage too much. So somewhere just before lunch, after lunch, mid-afternoon, that time of the day when I like to say, I feel like I've gone on screensaver mode, like I'm here, but not really here. This is something that unfortunately for me needs to get done every day. The other factors or parameters around this particular issue is if the admin is tied to another colleague's deliverables, then I would need to prioritize it. Because maybe my colleague in finance is preparing for audit, so they need for us to have submitted all of our claims. So while it's not fun to sit down and look for all the receipts and compile them, that might be something that I Then I do another part of my task has to do with strategic, creative, or deep work, session design, program design, workshop facilitation, report writing. This requires high energy. Best time of the day for me to do this, mid-morning and evenings, the time when my energy is peak. And of course, for facilitation, it depends. Wednesday through to Friday, I'm one of those people who, if Monday could not Monday, that would be very helpful. Like if Monday was, if we pretended it did not exist as a day, I find it to be a day when I have the least energy. High energy, my energy peaks as the week goes on. Wednesday through to Friday, Tuesday, I can engage. I'm deep. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, very good. Friday, it's I have a different energy. So when I'm doing this deep work, I have a preference to work from home, unless of course we have an in-person facilitation, then that's different. For my social, in terms of work that sits in the social category, networking meetings, business development, these ones require medium type of energy. I prefer to do this in the afternoons when I have a general energy dip, because then, remember we talked about a personality being an influencer. My extroverted self, I like to engage with people, then bearing in mind, when am I least productive at the office? Mid-afternoon, so maybe that could be a good time to go out and meet people, do the networking. In terms of managing work, weekly meetings, coaching, I do a lot of coaching, viewing of documents, generating, giving feedback. That's a medium to high energy activity, best done in the mornings or early afternoons. Tuesday to Thursday being optimum time. So I'll generally schedule these sorts of engagements this day. Learning work, building self, building knowledge, that requires medium to high energy, probably best done in the early afternoons. And I have a preference to do this either by talking with somebody or working from home. Then I also put in something around recovery. Remember the well springs here? I think about the 4 well springs. Cooking, restoration activities, resting, strolling, require low energy, probably best done in the afternoon or evening, throughout the week, overall workload. So this is a gift that we want to leave you, a tool to help us manage our energy. Musa and I have asked you some questions throughout the morning to help us think about what are the core activities we need to do, and how, and thinking about what are the optimum times in which this needs to get done. That is what the conversation around energy management is about. Energy and not time is the fundamental currency of high performance. In order for us to be able to be optimum in our performance, what we need to do is manage our capacity and not our time. Most of us respond to rising demands in the workplace by putting in longer hours. We think the more time we spend on a task, that's how we're gonna fix it better. Inevitably, what happens is then it takes a toll on us physically, mentally, emotionally, which then leads to declining levels of engagement, increasing in levels of distraction, high turnover, high medical costs, because now we are stressed, we are constantly stressed, we are constantly in panic zone. Now we need hospitalization, now we need stress meds. And instead, the invitation is to expand our capacity. And we have spent the last hour and a half just giving us tips and sharing with each other how we can expand our capacity instead of trying to focus on expanding our time, because time is exact. And on that very exact note, it is the top of the hour, 9 a.m. Thank you very much for staying with us. We have adapted this work, as I said, from the works of Catherine McCarthy and Tony Schwartz, and we share the link for a publication that you can go and check out. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Hazel and Catherine, for having us. We are very happy to be here. In case you want to engage with us more, we have a program specifically designed for small and growing enterprises, building the leadership capacity called Leadership for Growth. So we welcome you to check us out, come to the Amani Institute and website, visit us and see what it is that we have. Thank you very much for your time and attention. It's been a pleasure staying with you this morning. You have the recording, so I welcome you to go and check it out at any point. Back to you, Hazel.
Thank you so much, Pauline and Musa and Agnes for that session. It's been quite insightful. I like the simplicity. It's actually things that we already know, just that we don't practice them. And that tool is, it's an eye-opener. I think when you just take some time off to reflect, especially now that we're coming to the half year, it would be good to use that tool to plan like what the next 6 months will look like. So thank you so much for that insightful presentation. To all the people who participated, thank you so much. It's always a joy to see that the people you started with at the beginning of the session stayed on until the very end. That means that the content was captivating and it was informative and delivered very simply. So you will get the recording, and you will also get the slides so that you can make reference to what we've been taught today and also get to use the tool, the gift that has been left with us. So thank you so much. Have a productive and energy-wise day. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Great, thanks everybody. Have a lovely day and hope to see you soon.